Eleanor Ward had never liked walking home after her night shift. But on this particular evening the world felt unusually quiet, as if the whole town were asleep under a blanket of cold air. Her breath made small white clouds in front of her face, and the snow under her boots made soft crunching sounds. Nothing seemed strange at first. The street lamps glowed warmly, and the houses on her street looked calm and peaceful. But the moment she stepped onto her porch, her eyes caught something that didn't belong there. Footprints, fresh ones. They were deeper than her own and led directly to her back door. She froze for a second, holding her keys tightly. It could have been a delivery person, she told herself. Or maybe a neighbor had stopped by. But the prints didn't look like someone walking casually. They looked like someone trying to hide their steps, or someone who had been walking for a long time. She unlocked the door slowly and stepped inside. The house was quiet, just the way she had left it. She hung her coat on the hook and set her bag on the small table by the door. The silence made her chest tighten. She tried to push the worry away, reminding herself she was overthinking, the way she often did after long shifts at the hospital. She turned on the kitchen light and gasped. A man stood near the corner of the room. He wasn't holding anything, and he didn't step toward her. He simply lifted his hands slightly, like someone trying to show they meant no harm. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were worn and dusty, and his face carried the exhausted expression of someone who had been running from cold nights and long roads. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said in a quiet voice. Eleanor's heart pounded so hard she could hear it echoing inside her head. She stepped back, reaching for the door. But the man shook his head gently. "If you open that door right now, someone outside might see me," he said, "and that won't end well for either of us." His tone wasn't harsh or rude. It sounded almost apologetic. Eleanor swallowed hard. "Who are you?" "My name is Cole," he said. "I just need a place to stay for a few hours. I'll be gone by sunrise." Eleanor stared at him. She had seen his face before on the news. A man who had escaped from custody earlier that week. Everyone in town had been talking about it. Some said he was dangerous. Others said he was a harmless man caught in a complicated situation. She didn't know what to believe. Cole saw the fear in her eyes, and for a moment his own face softened. "I know what you're thinking, but please, just listen." He reached into his jacket slowly, and Eleanor stiffened. Instead of pulling out something harmful, he placed a small object on the kitchen table. A simple metal object. A safety device, the kind carried for protection. Eleanor stared at it. Her breath shook. Cole didn't touch it again. He simply pushed it toward her. "You can take it," he said gently. "I'm giving you all the control here." She didn't move. He continued, "You can tell me to sit. You can tell me to leave. You can even call someone if you want. But please, hear me out first." Eleanor finally found her voice. "Why me? Why my house?" Cole sighed and looked down at his hands. "Because your house was the only one with a light on when I passed by. And because I'm cold, tired, and out of time." His voice trembled not with anger, but with exhaustion. Eleanor noticed he was holding his arm close to his side, as if it hurt. The nurse in her woke up instantly. She had seen people try to hide pain many times, and Cole was doing a poor job of it. "What happened to your arm?" she asked carefully. "It's nothing," he said, giving a faint smile. "Just a scrape. I didn't come here to make you deal with my problems." She looked at him again, this time not as a stranger in her kitchen, but as a person who clearly needed help. Something about his face, maybe the tired eyes, maybe the quiet tone, made her feel he wasn't a threat at all. Just someone who had been alone for too long. "Sit down," she said finally. He did. Eleanor pulled a chair across from him. She didn't touch the object on the table, but she left it where she could see it. Cole kept his hands on his knees, sitting still, watching her with a mixture of relief and nervousness. "Tell me what happened," she said. Cole hesitated before speaking. "I didn't escape because I wanted to run forever. I escaped because things happened where I was, and I couldn't stay there any longer. I saw something that shouldn't happen to anyone, and when I tried to help, everything turned against me." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't use strong words. He just spoke with a tired sadness that felt far too real to be fake. Elena listened quietly. She didn't know if every detail was true, but she could tell he was carrying a heavy story. He continued, "People think I'm a bad person now. They think I did something wrong on purpose. But I was only trying to protect someone. Maybe I didn't do it the right way. Maybe I acted too quickly. But I didn't want to harm anyone." Elena saw how his shoulders tensed as he spoke. He wasn't proud of what happened. He wasn't trying to make himself look good. He was simply a man trying to explain the events that had pushed him into a corner. After a moment, she stood up. "Let me look at your arm." "You don't have to," he said softly. "I know," she replied. "But you're in pain." Cole looked down. His voice grew even quieter. "Thank you." Eleanor brought her first aid kit from the bathroom and gently cleaned the scrape on his arm. It wasn't serious, but it looked like it had been bothering him for hours. Cole watched her with a calm, almost grateful expression. "No one's treated me kindly in a long time," he admitted. Elena didn't answer. She focused on the bandage. When she finished, she sat back down. The house felt warmer now, though the situation was still tense. But something inside her had shifted. Cole didn't feel like a stranger anymore. He felt like someone caught between choices he never wanted to make. "Why did you put that thing on the table?" she asked at last. Cole looked at it for a long moment before answering. "Because I wanted you to know that I trust you. I'm not here to scare you. I just needed someone to give me a bit of time. A safe place to breathe until sunrise." He paused. "I thought giving you control would show you I mean no harm." Elena wondered about his past, about the choices that had led him here. She wondered if he had any family waiting for him or if he had been alone his entire life. She wondered how many nights he had spent outside in the cold since he ran. Cole leaned back and sighed. "I'll leave at sunrise. I promise." Elena didn't answer right away. She didn't know what she would decide. She only knew that the man sitting in her kitchen wasn't the dangerous person the news had described. He was just tired, frightened, and desperate for someone to believe he wasn't a monster. As the night slowly moved forward, the two of them sat in the quiet kitchen, sharing silence, sharing stories, and sharing a strange connection neither of them expected. And for the first time since she walked inside her house, Elena no longer felt afraid. She felt something else, something even more powerful. She felt responsible. The night passed slowly, as if time itself was afraid to move forward. Elena and Cole sat across from each other in the warm glow of the kitchen light. Outside, the world was dark and silent, except for the wind brushing gently against the windows. Elena kept glancing at the clock on the wall. Sunrise was still hours away. Cole rubbed his hands together, trying to stay warm. His eyes looked tired, but there was something softer in them now, a hint of calm, maybe even trust. Elena could feel the weight of his worry in the air, and without realizing it, she felt a growing desire to understand him fully. "Are you sure you want to wait until sunrise?" she asked quietly. "Yes," he said. "After sunrise, things will settle down a bit. I just need to reach a safe place, somewhere I can explain what really happened." Elena nodded. Though she wasn't convinced things would be that simple, she took a slow breath and folded her hands on the table. "You said earlier that something happened before you ran. Something that made everything worse," she said softly. "What did you mean?" Cole hesitated. He lowered his head slightly and spoke in a slow voice. "There was a misunderstanding. A few people thought I did something wrong. But I swear, I didn't mean to cause trouble. I was only trying to help someone who needed it." He didn't share details, and Elena didn't push for them. She could see the discomfort on his face, the way he shifted in his seat as if the memory itself was heavy. She respected his silence. Sometimes people didn't need to tell every detail to be understood. As the minutes passed, the room grew warmer, and the tension slowly faded. Elena offered him a cup of tea, and though Cole seemed surprised, he accepted it with both hands, warming his fingers on the mug. "This is the first warm drink I've had in days," he said quietly. Elena felt her heart tug a little. "You must be exhausted." "I am," he admitted. "But tonight, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time." "What's that?" she asked. "Safe." The word sat between them like a fragile piece of glass. Elena looked at him, really looked at him, and realized how deeply he meant it. For someone who had spent days running, hiding, and fearing every sound, a single calm night must have felt like a precious gift. Time moved slowly but steadily. The clock hands crept forward. The house stayed quiet, wrapped in a stillness that felt almost protective. Every now and then, Elena would hear the distant sound of a car driving slowly down the road. She knew those were patrol cars. The town had been on alert since Cole's escape, and officers had been checking the area carefully. Cole heard the cars too. Each time he tensed slightly, his shoulders rising as if ready to run. Even though he had nowhere to go, Elena noticed the way he glanced toward the window, and she gently shook her head. "They won't come in here," she whispered. "Not unless they have a reason." He relaxed a little, though she could tell his nerves were still fragile. They continued talking about small things at first. Elena told him about her job at the hospital, the long shifts, the people she helped every day. Cole listened with genuine interest, as though her world was far more fascinating than his own troubled path. "You must be strong," he said softly. "Helping people every day like that." Elena smiled a little. "I don't know if it's strength. Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes I doubt myself. But I try to do the right thing." Cole nodded. "That's more than most people can say." She noticed that whenever he spoke about himself, he did so carefully, almost shyly, as if he was afraid to take up space in the world, as if he had learned long ago that people rarely listened to him. But Elena listened fully, and something about that seemed to give him a spark of comfort. Hours passed. The night grew lighter, shifting from deep black to a dark blue. The edge of the horizon seemed to promise dawn, but the peaceful moment didn't last. Suddenly, distant sirens echoed faintly in the cold air. Not loud, not close, but enough to make Cole stiffen. "They're checking the area again," he murmured. His voice tight, Elena stood and peeked through a small gap in her curtains. She saw the distant flashing lights moving down a main road. They weren't heading toward her street, but the sight still made her heart pound. She returned to the table, trying to hide her worry. "It's okay. They're not coming here." Cole looked at her with tired eyes. "They might. They've searched nearly every corner of town by now." Elena felt a twist of concern. She didn't want anyone bursting into her home, and she didn't want Cole taken away without a chance to explain himself. He wasn't dangerous, not in her eyes. He was simply a man caught in a chain of events that had spun out of control. "What will you do when you leave?" she asked softly. Cole looked down at his hands. "Find someone who will listen to the truth. I know I made mistakes trying to protect someone, but I believe that if I can speak to the right person, they'll understand." He paused. "But if they find me before sunrise, I'm not sure I'll get that chance." Elena felt a surge of determination rise inside her. This man had trusted her completely. She could see it in his eyes, in the way he had placed that small object on her table without hesitation, giving her full control of the situation. He had come into her home frightened and alone, but not to hurt her. He came because he had nowhere else to go. She realized she didn't want him to leave at sunrise. Not alone, not without help. The sky outside slowly began to lighten. The first hints of morning touched the edges of the clouds with a soft glow. Cole stood from his chair, his body tense but steady. "It's almost time," he murmured. Elena stood too. "Wait." He looked at her, surprised by the urgency in her voice. "You don't have to do this alone," she said firmly. "You don't have to walk out there without someone by your side." Cole blinked slowly, confusion flickering in his tired eyes. "Elena, you've already done more for me than anyone else ever has." "I can't ask for more." "You're not asking," she replied. "I'm choosing." Cole let out a shaky breath. "You don't understand. If they see you with me, they'll listen," she said. "They'll see you're not causing trouble. I'll tell them everything. I'll tell them you didn't force your way in here. You didn't hurt me. You didn't threaten me. You just needed help." Cole stared at her for a long moment, emotion rising in his eyes. Not fear, not guilt. Something softer, deep appreciation mixed with disbelief. "You're willing to speak for me?" He whispered. "Yes," she said. "I'm willing to stand beside you." The room fell quiet again, but this time it was a hopeful silence. A silence filled with something stronger than fear understanding. Cole looked toward the window where the sky was turning pale gold. "Sunrise," he said softly. Elena walked to the door and opened it slowly. A cool breeze drifted in, carrying the fresh scent of morning. The snow sparkled faintly in the early light. Cole hesitated at the doorway, his steps slow. He turned to Elena, his voice low. "Thank you, no matter what happens next. Thank you, you're not alone," she said. Together, they stepped out onto the porch. Immediately, a patrol car turned onto the street. Its lights flashed softly, not in alarm, but in slow recognition. The officer inside looked startled to see two figures standing calmly in the open. Cole did not run. He did not hide. He simply stood beside Elena, breathing deeply, trying to gather the courage to let the world see him clearly. Elena stepped slightly in front of him, not to shield him, but to show she was there by choice. The officer approached carefully. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" "Yes," Elena said clearly. "Everything is fine. This man came to my home peacefully. He didn't hurt me. He didn't force me. He just needed a safe place to stay until morning." The officer listened closely. Another officer approached, taking notes. Cole stood quietly behind her, his hands visible, his posture calm. Elena continued, "He deserves a chance to explain the truth, and I'm willing to be a witness for him." The officers looked at each other, surprised but attentive. One of them gently asked Cole to step forward. Elena squeezed his arm lightly in encouragement. Cole exhaled slowly and nodded. "I'm ready." The officers guided him respectfully, without harshness, without misunderstanding. There was no shouting, no chaos. Just a slow, careful process of returning peace to the situation. As they prepared to leave, Cole turned to Elena one last time. His eyes held a mix of gratitude and hope that words couldn't fully express. "Thank you." He whispered again. Elena smiled gently. "You'll be heard. I promise." When the car drove away with Cole seated calmly inside, Elena watched the sunrise fully break across the sky. The golden light touched everything: the snow, the houses, and the quiet street. And she knew that her decision that night had changed more than just Cole's life. It had changed hers too.